Good evening. I will call to order the school board meeting of October 28th. Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Aldrich.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
McKeon.
Here.
Peterson. Here. Tomzik.
Here.
Tucker. Here. And Bowerman.
Yes, ma'am. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start tonight with some good news, some excellent news. Some students we're going to recognize tonight, and to help us do that, I'm going to ask Erin to come on up. And I think she can talk in a little bit more depth than I can, but we are very, very proud of all our students, but tonight some very special students. So take it away.
Yes. So tonight we are honoring our National Merit semifinalists as well as our National Merit commended students. So over 1.2 million students took the PSAT last fall, also sometimes called the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. And of those 1.2 million students, only 50,000 progress on to be either commended or semifinalists. So all our students here tonight are part of that group. And then of those 50,000, 16,000 in the top tier are recognized as semifinalists. And so those are our 5 students: Tommy Bethel, Sarah Vitcham, Gotham Nair, Parth Rani, and Samu Ravi Kumar. So we are excited to not only honor them, but also our 3 commended students as well. So the 5 top students now will continue in the competition. They've already had to submit a series of essays, recommendation letters, extensive transcripts and things like that with the help of myself and their counselors at the high school. And then we'll find out in February if they progress on to be finalists.
So why don't the 5, let's introduce our students. So let's introduce the first 5. Why don't you stand? The 5 in the, there we go. And I think we have 3 of them here tonight.
Here we're able to come.
Okay. So tell us your names.
I'm Tommy.
Tommy?
I'm Gotham.
Gotham?
I'm Sarah.
Sarah. Congratulations. We are very, very proud of you guys. I don't really want to put you on the spot anyway, but give us an idea of what your future plans may entail to kind of build upon this honor.
Lots of college.
Do your mom and dad know lots of college?
I want to go into the science field. I'm leading neurochem, so I'm going to be going for my doctorate for sure, I've decided. So lots and lots of college.
Excellent. You already have an idea where you might want to go?
I'm applying to the U, but my hope is to get into Harvard is the other place I'm applying.
Wow.
Good backup school.
Yes.
I'm looking to do biomedical engineering as far as my undergrad goes. I'm also applying to the U and Harvard on Tommy. But after that, I'm looking to get into some med school to use kind of my engineering background to kind of different perspective on med school. Hopefully, eventually start to look into a specialty in that case.
Excellent. I worked with several doctors at the U who did it the other way around. Got their medical degree and then went into engineering to build upon their medical training to develop devices and that sort of thing. So you can kind of go both ways. Great. Yes.
I'm heavily involved in our youth and government program here at Shakopee as well. So, yeah, what I really want to do is go into either pre-law or some kind of political science related field. So I'm looking at McAllister and Hamlin, Minnesota.
I got my law degree at Hamlin, so good school. Excellent. Well, congratulations, guys. That's outstanding. You then have to wait now and basically till February. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you get to kind of cool your heels for a little while. That's outstanding.
They're busy working on all the college apps now. So.
Of course, of course. Let's give these guys a big round of applause. Okay, we're gonna, if you guys want to take your seat, we're gonna recognize the commended students. So we got Isabel, Mary, and Elise. Are you guys here? All 3 of them. Excellent. All right. So do the same thing. Tell us. Let's start left to right. What are your interests and plans?
I'm interested, I'm
Yes.
Isabel, and I'm interested in genetic research, hopefully starting with an undergrad in microbiology. I'm not sure where, but I'm applying to, the ones I'm hopeful for are University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and the U of M.
Great.
So yeah, I'm Elise, and I'm hoping to do some form of private 4-year school probably for biology, but I'm also kind of leaning towards musical composition, so we'll see where that goes, maybe both.
Well-rounded. I like it.
I'm Mary. I'm looking to go into like, as an end goal, probably epidemiology. Otherwise, maybe genetic counseling. I haven't really decided between the two, but science is definitely the way I'm gonna go. And my reach school is definitely Stanford, but like, UCLA would also be really cool to go to, so.
California, huh?
Yes.
It's in the cards, I'm
Not
guessing.
here.
Mom's okay with that, I guess?
The future of our country is in good hands. This is very impressive.
I mean, we had one kind of, social sciences, humanity, but heavy science side, which is really interesting, especially with the girls, which is wonderful.
So are we looking at a former member of Congress or future member of Congress then? Or?
Well, let's give these three a hand as we did. All right, so you want to take the picture all together? Or, all right, so all 6 of you, come on up front. All right, hold on. I don't know if I get this quite right. Where do you want us?
Yeah, and a lot of medical care stuff.
Congrats again.
Great brains are going into medical fields.
A lot more ambitious than I was when I graduated school. I just knew I was going to go
Well, I don't think you have to downplay that.
No.
Block me in would be great.
You'll look over your feet first. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
All right, parents, here we go.
You're welcome to come forward and take this too.
All right, congratulations, guys.
If you all don't mind coming out with me so I can take individual photos.
And you're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. I suspect you were here for that. I'm hurt.
That's new.
What do they demand behind you?
Please stay here. Please do. I should have said congratulations to parents, because the parents made this possible too, so for the video, congratulations to parents.
One of those kids, the first one, he's in his second year at the U. Wow. And he's a senior.
Wow.
All right, let's get on with the business of our meeting. We've got the agenda. Do we have any noted changes at this point? So I will look for a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion.
Paul, is there a second?
Second.
I heard Joe. Is there any discussion on the agenda at this point? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to consent. Let's just get it on the table. Do I have a motion to accept consent?
So,
I heard Christie. I'm going to go to you.
That was Angela. It was it, that was me.
Really? Wow. I thought I was even looking at you when
Only 9 years of working together.
Wow.
I was
Sorry,
silent.
Angela.
It's all right.
Your voice. All right, how about some discussion? I know that I would like to make one comment. It's always tough when we lose people, just before you get there, Joe. But I know that I worked, and I think some of us have been on board for a while, I've worked with Ibrahim for many years, and I want to just recognize his many years of service and his role as a cultural liaison for the district. And he's not here tonight, but I did want to say thank you to him and wish him well.
Absolutely.
All right, Joe, are you going to say something?
Bill, I'm going to screw up your last name, Minozi. Manazi is our hired new Director of Finance and Operations starting in January. He's here tonight. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Bill, come on up. Wonderful. Thank you. Just take a second to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself. As Joe mentioned, I'm Bill Manazzi. I have my wife, Greta, and then Tommy and Lauren are our two kids. They are 6 and 7 in kindergarten and first grade. So we are a busy family focused on soccer and hockey and whatever other activities families are focused on. So I started my career in accounting at Deloitte, worked as an auditor. I like to say I'm a recovering auditor. Moved into the world of school finance about a decade ago, and I love the work. I love the lifestyle, and I love what it provides for our family. It's my hope that we would be a big part of the community here, not only financially and working in the school district, but also you'll see us at football games and fall plays, and I just really look forward to being a part of the community. And from what I can gather, it's a great team that Dr. Edmond has assembled here, and I just genuinely excited to get started. You never really look forward to January, I guess, in terms of a month, but I can't wait for January to come around so I can get in here and get started. So thanks for the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate your interest and welcome, and we're very grateful to Jeff. He's leaving us in good shape, and so you've got big shoes to fill in that regard, but it's in good shape, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for saying.
So assuming we approve consent, which hasn't happened yet, we will say officially, welcome. Yeah. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. As a fellow hockey dad, I feel your pain. Absolutely. 6 a.m. practices.
Yep. Welcome. All right. Anything else on consent?
Yes.
Okay.
5.1.9, I would just like to say thank you to Reggie for 10 years of service to this community, and that me and my family wish you luck in your future endeavors.
I appreciate that. Dispense with that. Thank you. All right. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Now welcome, Bill, officially. All right. We're just going to follow the agenda in the order that's set up.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're actually going to, this just warms my heart. We're going to start with policy.
You know, there's a lot of policy on here tonight.
It's on here
not
twice.
sure that's,
It's on here twice. All right. So Christy, why don't you take us, this is the first reading section, right?
Yes. All right. So this is the first reading of several policies that we had at our last policy meeting that they were reviewed. Just some highlights of them. I want to point out most of these have some sort of statutory change, minor wording changes, but a few of them that I want to highlight. 419 specifically, the tobacco-free environment, that one has a little bit more substantive change to it in regards to electronic devices, e-cigarettes, vaping, that sort of thing. I wanted to point that out. That's been kind of a buzz topic here in the last few weeks, and so we are making the recommended changes to that. Let's see here, what was it? 516, I just want to clarify the change in regards to student possession and use of sunscreen. In the past, students were not able to have sunscreen in their possession and put it on themselves. That has changed, so now they can do that. The nurse doesn't have to do that. So that's basically what the change is on that one. Again, the rest of them are very, again, statutory changes that we are looking to adapt. Mike, is there anything else you want to call out on the policies?
Nope, I think you did a good job.
So then these would come forward in November for the second reading of the plan?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or discussion on this item? This is just first reading, so you got a chance to look at them later.
This is all pretty much, the state law changed.
Yeah.
Be in line with it.
Staying current. All right, hearing nothing else, then at this point, we're just accepting them as a first reading. So, Christy, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, make a motion that we accept the policies as presented for a first reading. You want me to read them all?
No, it's fine. No.
As listed on our approved agenda for tonight.
Is there a second?
Second.
Paul? Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. So then, if you have any additional comments or questions, you can give those to Christy in the interim, otherwise they'll come back in December, or in November. All right, we'll move on to 6.2. Jeff? Finance update?
Okay, this is the, I think, first quarter, first report we've done in the current fiscal year. So you can see the green chart, green bar there, the third column. Revised budget and revised revenue and expense. So right now we're projecting $1,195,000 surplus in the current year. Sarah, if you could scroll down, I just want to talk about the prior fiscal year. Can you?
I did.
Can you not get that?
I
Um,
am. It's frozen. Okay.
Is it? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll talk about it. So what I'm showing there, and hopefully you can see that, is the, I'm calling it the unaudited fund balances. So we do have a few updates. When we, I think, finally have when we got the final audit, that the audited fund balance will probably be about 4.9 million. The change that I think we're going to see will be in the unassigned fund balance that probably get close to 3.7. So still some adjustments we're making final audit, but they've all been, as we talked about in the finance meeting earlier. There we go. All pretty positive. So the next time we should see audited balances, and I think those restricted and non-spendable, restricted, assigned, and so on, those numbers are pretty solid, and you'll see that unassigned go to about almost 3.7. So good news. And then the other thing that will probably take place, and maybe because the agenda's packed in December, I'll try to we do a budget revision, and so we take current year numbers. We're now looking at all the staff we have in place and enrollment updates, and we make a change to revenue and expense. I'm probably almost done with that, so I would bring those numbers in their revised budget in November. And I think what we're looking at is, we know we've got some enrollment downward adjustment, but we'll pretty close to those numbers that are there. There's going to be some changes on the revenue and expense side, but we still should be projecting a surplus for FY20. So the other thing I should point out, look at the property tax line. I think last year I made that change, in that according to UFARS, we actually recognize all of the tax revenue at the beginning of the year. But I guess I probably hadn't done that by September last year. It might have been October, when it's probably after the audit that I made that change. So you're seeing the 89% on that property tax line recognized already in the current year. And I think when we get to the next month, you'll probably see that I did that last year in October to do that earlier recognition. So. And then, as I always talk about when I'm doing this, I look at the salaries and benefits, because that's about 80-some% of our expenses, and I like those percents that are, it's early, we've only done a couple payrolls for our certified staff, but I like how that's trending right now. So I think that, again, we'll make some revisions to the current year, but we certainly should see a surplus projected for the current year. And good news, I think, on the prior year. So eventually we'll have that final audit for you.
Questions for Jack?
Looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it's very good. I like when the revisions are upward. It's always nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like bringing those.
Yeah. All right, so we're on track. Things are looking good. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate
Thanks,
that very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 7.1 to be specific. And Dave? No? Mike, you're going to talk. This is the, this is something we talked about kind of in our agenda building session, and we felt it was appropriate to bring forward to the full board for possible action tonight.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to reiterate the title of this is discussion and possible action. This is one of those things, and Sarah, if you pop that up, that visuals. In working with the Community Facilities Task Force and in working on the attendance area plan for the middle school, we've come across a situation that we thought makes more sense to address on the front end and being proactive rather than waiting. We've looking at attendance areas, if you'll scroll down to that one, perfect, even a little further down.
Okay.
Looking at the elementary attendance areas, and this goes back to work with the task force that Dave and others have done, where we've taken a look at enrollment, we've taken a look at capacity in each of the buildings, and currently the elementary with the lowest enrollment is Red Oak. We've looked at projections and trends and new development. We've had Michael Kursky from the city come into that committee and other things, and we've done our best to plot and chart where those developments may be. And if we look at the current attendance areas, there appears to be, I just mentioned that Sunpath has the lowest current enrollment. It also, Red Oak, yeah, I just read something, I appreciate that. Red Oak has the current lowest enrollment. There also does not appear to be any planned or projected development that's going to impact elementary enrollment in a large way. There's certainly, within the Red Oak attendance area, there's the Canterbury Commons, but the projections of elementary age students coming out of there is somewhat low. And so we look, there is a contiguous piece of land, and that's the red box on this map, contiguous to the Red Oak attendance area that does, at least at this point, these things can always change. It could change tomorrow, but does have some projected development. But right now, that land inside that red box is completely, well, I shouldn't say completely. The blue land inside the red box has 0 residents. And that blue area is currently, would be in the enrollment area of Eagle Creek. And you'll notice there's a kind of a, I don't know, what do we call them, that salmon or pinkish color. That's the Red Oak attendance area. Kind of has a piece of it that drops down into that red box. Actually, if you'll stay scrolled down, please, Sarah.
Yeah, and we're just having some connection issues, I'm sorry.
And so the blue area around that is either, commercial industrial is part of that, which we don't expect any residential development, or right now it's farmland with the potential for some development. And knowing that in certain situations, it's much easier to change an attendance area before people have built homes there, moved in, done those type of things, and then go, hey, we think we need to do this. Every indicator we have shows Red Oak currently with a lower enrollment and projecting into the future with a lower enrollment. So wanted to discuss with you, as soon as I get done rambling here, about that possibility of moving the area, the blue shaded area within the red outline, changing that from the Eagle Creek to the Red Oak attendance area. And with that, I would open it up to discussion and further
right now,
questions.
there's nobody in Eagle Creek, so this would not affect anybody.
Correct.
So
There are
only if
0
you build houses
residences
there
in that area
would
that
people
go to
move
Eagle Creek.
Red Oak. Well, that makes sense then.
And then they find out before
Right.
they
They
build
know
the house,
that.
probably.
They know that going
Built.
in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, you're Eagle Creek now, and nope, sorry, you're gonna be Red Oak. No, switching it now for something that might happen 2, 3, 4 years down the road makes complete sense to me.
And it may never happen,
Right.
but it appears that it's going to happen.
And it also makes sense because you already have some Red Oak
Yeah.
folks there,
Right.
so neighboring kids go to school together.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
It's, to echo what Joe said, and it's gonna cause the fewest pain points, I think, with people.
Doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything right now, right?
So another question I have is just to the south of that, where there is some proposed development possibly coming in the next couple of years. what are we thinking with that piece? Is that something that could potentially shift over to Sunpath, or would that stay Eagle Creek?
I think at this point, we're not ready to answer that question. Christy, correct me if I'm gonna point up here, you're talking about the gravel pit area that's here? I think at this point, it probably makes the most sense to leave it as part of Eagle Creek, although we've been out researching again. Dave and I drove through the Leonard development out there and counted empty lots or lots that could be built on relatively, in the next few months even. So we're gonna continue to monitor that. But it didn't quite reach the level of, this just seemed to make sense. Where we know Red Oak, it's easier or more direct to calculate the projected development than it is Eagle Creek's at this time. So I wouldn't rule that out, but it doesn't seem to, it's not as direct a correlation at this point.
I know we've seen the numbers, but where are we at with capacity at Eagle Creek?
Eagle Creek right now is at about 750, so there are about 40-ish kids, a little over 40 with space, so that it makes sense from that perspective as well. If that other development comes in, to Christie's point, starting to evaluate what we're gonna do with some other areas makes sense. I think I said at a prior board meeting too, based on what's on the map, it seems like Eagle Creek has the more upward pressure than other buildings do, but they're still below.
Where is Red Oak at?
Red Oak's at 547, so they have 245 based on 792 capacity.
Okay.
Open seats, so I think we'd be good for a while.
So, I don't want to rush the board into any kind of action, but as we were constructing the agenda, it struck us that this seemed like a fairly commonsensical thing. What I'm hearing from you guys seems to be aligned with that. If we are comfortable with that, and again, I'm not presupposing anything because we would need a motion to do so. The idea would be we can sit on this for a couple weeks and address it at some point in the future, or if you feel comfortable with making this change, we can take action
I would
tonight.
prefer to make a motion.
Why don't you then make a motion?
I move that we move forward with the new development area going to Red Oak.
So realigning the red boundary area to Red Oak.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now that that's formally out there, what other questions, comments, discussion?
So I have a question. So, and this ties to our next item on the agenda with the middle school attendance areas. I know there's one scenario that has that little area, I believe, going to, that's one of the areas that will change based on the decision made. On one scenario, it'll go to east, and on one scenario, I think it goes to west. So I
Does it
think
dip that far?
there's a little parcel.
Does it dip that far?
I'm not,
I thought so, but
it might stop right before that in 107. So I know in 106, it would go to 107. There's a portion of that area where you're
Right.
talking about that goes to
Yeah,
west, but I'm not sure if that includes that portion.
you know what, that line you're talking about that goes up there, pushes up to 169 and then drops down, where it drops to the south is kind of arbitrary because there's nothing in there right now. That could move back over and line up correctly with what, I think, with what we're talking. Do you agree with that?
It is arbitrary.
Yeah, because
So-
there's nothing in there right now anyway.
so the only reason why I asked.
If you pop those up, 106.
The only reason why I asked that question is because if we change that to Red Oak, does all of Red Oak then go to the same middle school, or would it
No.
then be split?
It doesn't even,
I don't think that.
the elementary schools don't feed in, the feeder system.
No, I understand, I know.
But you're saying coincidentally.
Yeah, she's
Right.
saying
I know what
geographically.
I want to say with the 92 students in fifth grade, it's like 82 are going to east and 10 to west, as far as I remember, at least under one of the scenarios. So it wouldn't be everybody at Red Oak going?
can't, my little arrow there doesn't help
Yeah.
all that much, does it?
And I think what we did for simplicity on this map, and Christie, I think that's probably a great point, if you can pop that back up, is for simplicity, we drew the line straight down from 169 to 17, and we captured, there is a little sliver here that is currently going to Eagle Creek that is developed, and then
I'm gonna move this on.
for the other map, we took it along 17 over to here. Yeah, it'd be this little corner.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, right there. So that is something we'd probably want to go back and make sure that align. Yeah, because because there is some development here, south of, if you continue 17, due west. So we would want to go back and make that
Yeah, I was just-
adjustment,
I
because we
just-
wouldn't want to move that group.
Right, I just was
Yep.
curious what the
No, that's a-
impact is
that's a
on
great point.
middle school boundaries by doing this.
Yeah, and we did it because there's nobody living there,
Right.
so
It makes
thought we would
sense.
clean that
So
up
in
then.
107, it would touch a little bit. It's 106, it would all be east.
Yeah, 106 comes up, Independence
Right.
gets to 17th and then cuts off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my only thought is that we're not in a rush. So could we just give like time for the community to hear about it and see what kind of feedback we get? I mean, it seems logical to me, but I don't think there's a huge hurry either.
I mean, is this something we can do at the same time as the middle school? Does it make sense?
Has the land been sold even?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
It was, yeah,
So
it's
it's
an
not a
idea
rush.
that spun out of these other things that we thought, really we wanted to make sure that we had a discussion, and we thought this was the right place to have that discussion.
I think it totally makes sense to be proactive and to do that. I just want to make sure that what we're doing with the middle schools, that we take that into consideration, that we don't have to do any further work to move those boundaries for Red Oak based on the scenario that's selected. That's my only.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
I don't know. There's nobody there right now, and it
Right.
seems like, even if they're talking 600 houses,
I saw
the
that.
multiplier we've been using is about 0.25, which would be about 600 times 0.25 would be 150 kids. If it's 700 houses, it'd have to be another 25.
175.
175.
So say we send all these kids from that development to one middle school or the other, what would the impact be?
I don't know if we can know that.
Yeah, and we've tried to capture some of that in the numbers with the middle school attendance area presentation. But I don't know that we did not have exact numbers, we just put a star up for
Yeah,
development.
there's no numbers
Yeah,
reflecting
so-
that one. That would have an impact on there. That would be, I don't know how.
If they were the first through seventh grade for 175 kids, if it was even out, it'd be 25 kids a year, so it could be 75 kids.
Yeah, and it depends,
So-
what you had on the other side of the district
Right.
developing at the same time.
We talk about the likelihood of, I mean, the land isn't even sold, or not even talking about breaking ground, so the impact on the district could be 10 years from now.
Could be.
I mean,
As much as we'd like to think boundary lines stay that long, we've
Right.
lasted 9-10 years now, and that's
Right.
hugely irrelevant, so something else could change. Angela said something I think is interesting in terms of collecting feedback. I just wonder who we collect feedback from, since it affects no one at this time.
Right.
It'd be hypothetical.
I just feel like when we do boundaries, we always give it an opportunity to be resonated in the community.
Yeah.
And this is one of those opportunities where we're not letting it resonate within our community.
But
Somebody
it's
might
not
have an
affecting
opinion.
anybody.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a unique
I
circumstance.
get it, I'm just saying what our regular protocol has been to be consistent.
No,
That's
totally
what I
understand
like.
what you're saying. I do totally understand what you're saying.
There are a lot of people in the Shakopee community that has a lot of opinions that do a lot of
Lots
things
of
that don't matter, so. Come on.
That doesn't seem possible.
So then with the suggestion, I mean, we have a motion on the table, so we either need to act upon the motion or table it, withdraw it for another time. So based upon this discussion, what's the will of the board in terms of not acting on this now?
I would like to see us wait until after we have the middle school's boundaries figured out and determine what we're going to do, and then maybe early next year, take another look at this. Maybe we'll know more of when it's going to be developed, if anything is in it.
I think it should be done prior to the first house being built.
I'm even saying like next board meeting.
Right, and
Just give it some time.
it just seems like if we do this right now, it's there. People who are gonna develop it right away, they can say, this will be the school, this will be the elementary school, this will be, but you're probably right. Maybe we should wait till after the next 2 weeks, figure out, well, really, when's the vote gonna be for 106, 107? Probably not till December. Do we wait till then? I really think when nobody has really an opinion on it is probably the best time to do it.
Well, I think when that land is sold, that's when we make the decision. When we know that there's something that's gonna be starting, that's when we.
I'd probably differ with you on that. I would move before that, so there's nothing driving it one way or the other. And the developer and anyone who projects to build there would know where they're going. I wouldn't wait till it sells. I think you can do it sooner. It doesn't have to be tonight, it could be next Monday, it could be 2 months from now, but I think it should be done sooner. So again, I'm looking, we have a motion on the table. I can't ignore that. So we either have to act on that motion and vote as your conscience dictates, and it stays or goes, or we can pull the motion, and that would be actually you, Paul, doing that as the person who makes the motion. You'd have to be willing to do that, to withdraw your motion.
You know, if everyone, if we got enough people that think that we should wait, I have no problem with tabling it.
Okay. So that is an option.
That would be my preference.
We comfortable waiting a little bit?
I could
go either way, so.
I'm in the same boat.
people
I mean,
have a
it's-
preference
It's
to
such a
wait.
no-brainer to make the move, but I get the process point of listening for feedback and doing the public courtesy of it may be some strange idea or something that pop up in the next 2 weeks, so I don't see a harm in tabling it either.
Since we are meeting at East and West the next 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you can always bring it up at both meetings.
But I think directionally, I think Mike and Dave are hearing, nobody's opposed to this. So, you know, for future thinking.
And again, our goal was to bring it forward and discuss it here in public.
So for harmony, I think, not that that's what we have to strive for necessarily, but I think that's a good thing. Paul, are you willing to withdraw the motion at this time?
Consider withdrawn.
Okay, so this particular item will go back on the drawing board, table, if you will, for some future meeting. Doesn't have to be the next one, it might be awaiting the boundary discussion itself, but you, as I think Matt appropriately summarized, you can see the sense of the board at this time.
Yep, no, thank you, that was perfect.
Okay.
Then we'll totally change our mind.
All right, let's move on. Item 8.1, middle school attendance area update. Dave, you're going to give us another round of this.
Okay, so I'm gonna fly through in 11 minutes what's gonna.
Or less.
Or less. What's gonna be presented tomorrow and then most likely the following Tuesday, right? So why we're here, you guys have seen this, it's gonna be about 15 to 20 minutes of presentation, then the rest Q&A. If it's a smaller group, we'll probably take questions during. You guys have seen this, what the why, what's going on. You've seen this as well, kind of a lot of data, but really shows that continued projected difference in size between our schools and what our actual was. I'm arbitrary using September 18th, I'm not going to keep updating that. Okay, this is that current, oh, and I should point out, Ashley and Crystal added some nice pictures of East and West in there. If you're seeing those, we're kind of highlighting both schools. So we talk about this feeder model that we're primarily using. It's not perfect, but we have that in there. Just kind of a recap, again, around the why we need to do this. Timeline, you can see we're one above. That October 29th, that first, one above the red box, I mean. October 29th and November 7th, those two public meetings. And then November 18th, we'll come back and kind of formally talk about feedback we've got so far. Oops. This is the criteria that the board has used this time and in the past. All these factors kind of get weighed into that soup of trying to make the best decision. This is details around developments. Again, not trying to consume all this information, but to give an idea of what we would project if these were fully built out and the multipliers we used were accurate, how many kids we could expect to see. Like Christy said, if you look at the bottom row right above that blue line that says Eagle Creek, we named that farmland north of Gravel Pit. It's really the farmland north of, what is that?
17th Avenue.
17th Avenue. We really don't know. It's a proposal right now. It's in there kind of as a recognition, but there's no numbers in there for that. The others, we do have numbers, and we have used conservative multipliers for each of those grade level bands. This is our current elementary attendance areas with the middle school current attendance areas laid over the top of that. You can see even geographically that East takes up quite a bit less space. That upper right part, the dark blue lines, compared to the rest of the map, which is composed of Sweeney in gray, Jackson in green, and Eagle Creek in that salmon color. And you can see a lot of our, especially Eagle Creek up in the north where it cuts across those lines already, and you can kind of see Sweeney at both schools a little bit already as well. Again, that's where our kids are, current. And there it is one more time with no dots on there. There's the current developments that we know of. And here's how we're going to look at the stats. You guys have seen this before, how many open seats there are and what the demographics are. And then if those developments on the list where numbers were fully built out, this shows how many kids we would project at each. Okay? This is just informational on where, because there is a question about splitting our schools, so we wanted to do an analysis of where the current 6th graders went in 5th grade, kind of how they were split. So the example, that top row is the easiest one. Our current 6th graders that came from Eagle Creek, there were 127 of them. 21 of them are at East, 106 are at West. So you can see when we say it's not a perfect feeder model, that's an example, and you can look down the line there. Some of them are pretty close to all the kids, but there's a little bit of a split down the line there, okay? Same idea, current reality, if we just projected forward, what the differences would be. Here's the first new scenario. This is scenario 106. Kind of cuts straight, almost straight north-south with that bump out there, kind of in the middle, out to Independence, and where the students are. There's kind of a cleaner look at it. And you can see where the developments are, and then those two that we are kind of projecting that might be out there, if everything goes kind of as planned. The numbers for those to start with, you can see East starting a little below West, but 167 open seats at East, 120 at West, and more development now on the east side than the west side, and the projections put the schools almost the same. And then when you look at the demographics, real similar between the two schools. Where we get some questions are, what's this going to mean to kids? So if you look at that left box where it says projected school changes, that 81 under grade 7 means there's 81 kids who are current 7th graders at East that would switch to West. There's 150 current 7th graders at West that would go to East. And you can read that accordingly. The 5th grade kids, it's not really a change because they're not in middle school right now, but that's where they'd be projected to go. And the box on the right shows how each of our elementary schools would be split under this scenario. So you can see we wind up with 280 6th graders at East, 283 at West, and where they come from. Okay? So some schools split more than others. Multi-year projections, there's a lot going on here, but if you focus on that difference box, you can see that projecting out, just rolling the current kids forward, that they stay pretty similar in size. This is scenario 107. We just talked about this, kind of bumps up to 169, that north edge, and the south part of this moves over to the west. We move off of Marshall and kind of over to, I don't know what road that would be there. It's not, I don't think it's on a road actually, per se.
So this one we're going through someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's the cleaner look at that. There's the developments again. And here are the numbers for this scenario. A little closer to begin with. And with if those developments again came fully built with the right multipliers, where we wind up, and you can see where the demographics are on this one as well. Same idea, how many kids would wind up switching and where they come from. Okay, multi-year projection's pretty close. Okay, this is the one that any of you that spent time in front of people, the issue a lot of people are asking about, that's intra-district transfers. And I'm going to let you glance at that, then I have some bullets to just sum up. So I'll give you just a few seconds. And then I will sum up. This is what we're thinking long term. The next slide shows what we're looking to do for just 1 year, the transition year. Good? Here's what we're proposing just for next year. We're calling that, in light of this unique circumstances, requests by students enrolled in 8th grade for next year will receive preference over others to finish their middle school at the school where they started, or where they went for the last 2 years. We're looking at bumping up our willingness to have a bigger difference in size from 100 to 150 kids, and we'll provide a shuttle between the two schools to allow kids to bus to their boundary area at middle school and then shuttle if they were doing an inter-district transfer between the two. Here's the summary for 1 year only. Just to clarify, this proposal does not mean it's 150 requests for inter-district transfer. It's after we net out the inter-district transfers that we're not more than 150 different. Okay, Ashley, anything I should, is that good? Okay.
So if we've got 150 8th graders that want to do the inter-district transfer, that's at the other grades would be looked at.
Well, if you had 100 wanting to go from one to the other and 50 going to the other, the net would be 50. So we could allow more than 150 requests.
Okay.
It's what the net difference
That's not the
would be.
gross, it's the net.
Yeah, the 150 is one school can only be 150 students greater enrollment than the other
Okay.
school. Trying to, one of the goals of this is to have better balance between the two schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year allowing that difference to be 150. We're long-term keeping it at 100.
All right. And that's it, basically. Where's more information on our website? A little glance into that. A summary of how we've communicated so far. You guys have been aware of that. And Christy summed up nicely in an email talking about people seem like they've been well informed and understand why we're doing this, which has really been nice feedback to get. And that would be it then.
I was surprised. I thought that parents would care more about that feeder concept, and that has not been brought up.
No.
At conferences, I've had several emails, nothing's been brought up through that, so that's nice.
We did get one email on it, right?
Oh.
There was one.
one email so far.
Okay.
But yeah, it hasn't been the theme, that interdistrict transfer has been
Yeah.
more the theme than.
Because I'm glad that we are going to try to accommodate next year's 8th graders. I think that makes really good sense. But it seems like the two schools could be in a bit of an upheaval for 2 years then, depending upon teachers located wherever. Can't be helped. And I had 2 parents who said, couldn't the shuttle go for 2 years?
Yeah.
Who would that, I was confused who that would accommodate.
It would accommodate next year's 7th and 8th grade.
So it would get us through anybody who's started in a building.
And that we approved, that had an approved interdistrict transfer as an incoming 7th grader.
Right.
Which assumes that we are able to dip that low, which assumes how many intra-district transfers there are to begin with.
And how many shuttle buses are we?
So
looking at?
there's a lot of if-then
Right.
statements.
And where they come from is
Right.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we, at least at this point, have said we gotta draw the line somewhere. But that's something to revisit if it proves to be, critical. So that's the presentation for tomorrow, and then for a week, assuming there's no real changes to it. I found that very helpful, and I want to commend you guys for taking a lot of deep information that you've worked on to get us to this point and put it together in a nice fashion. So to the communications group, David, Sarah, everyone who's touched this, Mike, you probably had a hand in it too, so thank you very much. So are we good on this topic? We've been talking about this for a while, Christie?
Just one thing, I know at the end of the conferences at West, a couple of teachers asked about, they had a lot of parents ask the teachers that night at various points about the attendance boundaries, and they didn't have a ton of information about it, and we're sending them back out to the table. So I'm not really sure what's been communicated to the staff members in those buildings, but just providing that feedback.
No, that's good.
Good.
And are we gonna have the big boards at the meetings?
Yes, we will have the enlarged maps, we will have the one-pager of the fact sheet that has been at the conference nights. We will also have a Q&A, and we will have copies of this presentation.
Yeah, the big boards were
Yeah.
very, very
That's all,
helpful.
Mhm. And the also provided the boundaries for the elementary schools. And I don't know why that was so important, but a lot of parents, I'm glad that you have this.
Mhm.
We will have
Checking
those
on
too.
friends, maybe?
We will have the first night at East, a parent provided that feedback, and she said, it would be a good idea if you had printouts to show us the boundaries for elementaries. So after that first night, we started printing those, and we'll have those tomorrow too.
Okay.
Tomorrow, 6 to 7?
6 to 7 at East in
Okay.
the media center.
All right.
And then next Thursday at West, 6 to 7 in the media center.
Okay, they're not both Tuesdays. Okay, I had said that earlier, so my mistake.
So it's a week from Thursday to this coming Thursday.
This Tuesday, tomorrow at East, and then next week, next Thursday at
Okay.
West.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 8.2. I think Mike's gonna kind of touch a little bit on maybe some recent conference you went to.
Yeah, I just, with some newer board members and a newer superintendent, I was able to go to the Ford Next Generation Learning Conference. My part of it was a superintendent council. And learn from others across the nation about the academy model and get some, and really looking at the role of superintendent and how to lead within that role. And they shared a lot of great information. It was a great conference. But I wanted to share with the board and with the community at large, there is one significant change that they shared with us is Ford NGL, which is Ford Next Generation Learning Network. They've revised their learning framework. And as somebody who spent a lot of time last year kind of digging into this and learning it, on the right side of what Sarah has up there is the crosswalk, the 31 tactics that they formerly had as the learning framework. They have put into a revised framework, and I think from my own vantage point that it's a little cleaner, a little easier to understand, and I just think there's some great information there. I won't read all of these, but they put it into Strand 1, transforming the student learning experience, and I think 1.1 kind of resonated with me, teaching through the lens. They want, learn essential academics as well as essential life and workplace competencies through the lens of a career theme within high demand career areas and pathways of interest. And there's 3 others there in Strand 1, and we go to Strand 2, transforming the culture, systems, and structures. I thought 2.1, what they put there for teacher teams in the revised framework was pretty powerful. Within the academy model, we want to organize teams of academic and technical teachers and staff who learn and work together with a small learning community of students who learn through the lens of a career theme. 2.3 stood out to me as well. Family engagement is a really important part of a successful academy model. The academy model wants to engage parents and families in their children's learning and understanding of the benefits of the career academies. And 2.5, having supportive policies and practices, I thought was very good too. And again, taking nothing away from the others. And then Strand 3, transforming the partnerships between the schools, business, post-secondary, and community organizations. 3.2 is, I thought, an important piece of that, community learning resources. Organize and expand access to business, post-secondary, and community resources for learning. I absolutely love what we're doing in the Academies of Shakopee model in that area. It's been fascinating to me to see the commitment of our community and businesses within the community. And then the shared accountability piece, employing measurement practices and continuous improvement plans. The idea that the academy model is not meant to be static. You're going to continue to grow and develop and transform, and just as the world is changing, we need to be changing as well within that. And then I thought, they had some principles there on the bottom that guide everything that Ford NGL does, and I just thought the student voice one is a very important one, that we want students to have choice, ownership, and agency in pursuing their learning and career aspirations. And I would add my own personal thing would be, following their passion and finding their own pathway to success within this academy model. So that was new and updated, and I thought, if you're a newer board member, I think, we've thrown a lot of information at you, and this was just an opportunity to kind of pause and go back and take a look at the revised learning framework from Ford NGL, and you've got a little folder there, and you've got the other paper within that, and they had some cross-cutting benefits on the back of the folder that were good. And then the last thing is just a map, where the academy model and at which phase they're in, and they're not drawn, you'll notice geographically, the one in Minnesota is missing Shakopee by only about 150 miles. I think they got them in the States and felt, hey, that was pretty good.
I thought it was Alexandria.
Yeah, I did too. It's not, though. We're the only one on the list, so it's not. There's a list below then of the different communities. I made a little highlight of, I was able to learn with superintendents or leadership folks from Belton, Missouri, Akron, Ohio, Battle Creek, Michigan, the greater Clark County way in southern Indiana, Hampton, Virginia, Racine, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Romeo, Michigan, and Vicksburg, Mississippi. And just seeing how everybody, a lot of these areas have gone from what you would call a pocket academy, where part of your school or part of your high school is an academy model and others aren't. And they're shifting to what they call wall-to-wall academies. So got to listen to that. A lot of people are jealous of the academies of Shakopee. We were able to remodel and do an extensive construction project that fits the academy model to a T, and they look at that and just go, wow, I wish we had that. And then just sort of, what's the role of superintendent as we work with the community, as we work with our leaders within the academy models, and, what's the right amount of, kind of checking in and support and expectations, and So like I said, it was great. I was able to ask questions of people who we worked closely. I joked with my wife when I called home the first night, I feel like you've sent me away to camp, and we're a cohort and we're hanging out all day and we're eating our meals together and doing whatever. And I went, but wow, I get to ask questions of some of these folks, you know, like Rockford's been doing the academy model, I want to say for about 10 years. They are doing just some fantastic things with growing their own teachers. They have a cohort of 20 students in 9th grade, 20 in 10th grade, 20 in 11th grade, 20 in 12th grade, and have worked out community partnerships where they've decided, you know, if you're going to attack that teacher shortage, and especially teachers of color, they just went and got their own kids and said, we're going to help grow you into teachers. And I asked a lot of questions, and then of course flying home, I've got about 100 more questions, and but a great resource to kind of follow up and you know, see if we can, you know, kind of copy and steal some of those successful things like that. So, be happy to answer any quick questions from Mike, but mostly just wanted to share.
You mentioned that, you know, people were envious of our setup being that we're all under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still the only one in the nation, or in the model that has multiple academies, all inclusive in one building?
Nope, there are a number that have, there were a number depending on the size that a lot of them are going to wall-to-wall academies, so there were shifts from pocket to wall-to-wall. And one of the districts had, you know, they had overshot and they thought it probably had too many academies and too many pathways and sort of scaled that back, but there are multiple high school districts.
Okay.
But no, we're seeing, you know, and a lot of it's the size, and that was kind of the fascinating. If you're a high school of 4,000 students, you know, what are you doing? How many academies really works well wall to wall? And you had great resources. We also had the coaching staff from Ford NGL and experts there who could give feedback from other districts that weren't represented in person. And so I think most of the ones that had pocket academies are now trying to go wall to wall, trying to figure out how to do it. And they're jealous because they're trying to do it in a building that was designed for a more traditional education. And that presents challenges in itself.
Mike, was this conference one that they hold annually that you'll be, okay, so this isn't just a one-time event, you'll be able to benefit from something like this going forward?
Yes, that would be the plan. I thought that was valuable professional development. We did have our leadership team, you know, went, but we staggered days. And so we had Jenny Ames, Jeff Palicki, and Dave Orlowski. I attended Wednesday, Thursday. They attended Thursday, Friday. So we overlapped enough to talk about, you know, who was sitting by Dave on the plane. But then we had to wait to the day to go, hey, what did you do all day, you know, Friday? What was the learning about? So
I'll say just a couple, if it's okay, a couple things.
Yeah.
It does make you realize how valuable it is being part of this network. Because you really do, even though there's some wiggle room within how you do it, there are some things you have to do. And that network in Ford helps you keep your eye on what good implementation looks like. And you start to hear other examples of that as well. And so hearing what others are doing, hearing even if your questions are the right questions is helpful. And having, like Mike said, these Ford coaches there to answer your questions. We do have Star, who we still speak with every 2 weeks. We do a conference call with her. But I think that was a powerful part of it, that they call it the network. And you really felt like it was a network there as well. So,
is it my imagination? What did I think when we started this? There was 30 some odd. And I didn't do the math. This seems to be a much larger number. Of course, it's across different phases, but it has grown considerably in the last few years. Is that a safe statement?
Yep, it's growing. The ones in phase one are the ones, kind of the newer ones starting up, and I think there's a couple others that are kind of exploring that aren't even on the list, so, yeah, definitely.
okay, just one other comment, that's okay. So I think the other piece that was interesting was seeing the different leadership structures that they have there as well. And I think we've been very lucky to have, and we'd be remiss not to mention Tim here, who's been helping lead our steering committee and held that group together through some, you know, times of implementation and design, which can be, you're often tempted to turn back, and so we appreciate all the work that you've done as well, so.
And in that vein, the other person they missed was Nancy, who Nancy
Nancy's
filled in
still
as
here?
teaching and
Oh, I thought she
learning, and
was.
sometimes
Yeah.
kind of a part of, I think you've attended the superintendent's council.
I did,
Yeah,
1 year.
so-
'Cause we did.
They asked where you went, I said, she's doing awesome.
She delegated to you.
She did delegate to me, exactly.
All right, well, thank you.
This isn't a question so much as a comment, it's maybe a comment for Nancy as much as anyone. I would like to be updated occasionally, and maybe during our retreat would be a good time to understand how our elementaries and middle schools are also building toward the academy model.
Yeah, and we had a great conversation at the conference over how much is enough and how much is it you're just trying to develop good learners, and then how much are you trying to spiral down and connect some of those learning strands, and so that's a great question, Judy. Yeah, something we can certainly tackle.
All right, we will move along. Thank you, Mike, for the update on the academy work. We're going to move again back to policy. Exciting topic. We're going to take action tonight. Christy, do you want to bring forward a series for approval?
Yes, so these were on a previous agenda for review. And I'm just, because this is the final reading, I'm just going to quickly read off the policy number and the topic. Again, all of these are basically just updates to reflect any legal cross-reference changes. I don't think there's any of them on this list. I know there's not any on this list that had any significant changes at all. So 205 is open meetings and closed meetings. Policy 504 is student dress and appearance. 506 is student discipline. 509 enrollment of non-resident students. 513 student promotion, retention, and program design. 515 protection and privacy of pupil records. 529 staff notification of violent behavior by students. 602 organization of school calendar and school day. 624 online learning options. And 904 distribution of materials on school district property by non-school persons.
530. Just keep that. Immunization requirements.
Sir, can I just make note that 515 is not on this agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not?
Thank you.
But I think
it is
it was
important.
on our, yeah.
Thank you.
I saw that.
Okay. 530 is not on my list, but it's in the board book.
Let's
so.
get it on the table. You want to make a motion to submit these for approval?
Yes, I will make a motion, the policies, final reading and approval tonight for the ones that I just read off.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Discussion.
Just to thank you for all the hard work for the policy committee, and thank you for the summary, right? As you've said many times, a lot of this is just statute driven and moving a comma or changing a word, but it's important to be cognizant of all of these. I know in the MSBA news alerts, there was another suburban district that was just found in violation of open meeting laws, so it's important that we're all aware of what is permissible and what's not. So I think it's important that we stay current on all of these.
And big kudos to Mike and Sarah. We've kind of refined our process and procedures to make sure that we are keeping up to date with these statutory changes and laws and things like that, and someone having a little bit better understanding of what's happening with the different policies. So the summary that Sarah put together for the first readings earlier was awesome.
Very good. Thank you. I do have one question. I agree that Mike kind of read through, and it's always helpful. Thank you again for putting in the red line so we can see what changes are. 509 had, just from a verbiage perspective, actually put a chunk in there, and I just want to confirm that this effectively doesn't change. This is really probably for Mike and for Dave. This effectively does not, that right there, E, doesn't effectively change what we are doing or have done. This is about saying if more applications come in for open enrollment, basically. It used to have the part that was struck through, which just said we had to favor students in a certain fashion. Now it stipulates several other things. Does this create any real material change for what we have done or how we would approach it?
No.
I didn't anticipate it did, but I just want to confirm that.
fair amount of semantics and just sort of specifying the order.
All right, good. That was the only one I had questions. Anything else? All right, I would also like to add my thanks to the committee for the heavy lifting and going through this and reviewing it and putting it all together. So with that, I will look for all those in favor of accepting the changes and the provisions to the policies as listed by Christie, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to item 9.2. Jeff, you want to come on back up? This is actually revisiting an item that we talked about in our last meeting. We've had a chance individually to think more about this or collect any additional feedback. And tonight we're looking for a recommendation is to take action on the energy efficiency program.
Yeah, and I just want to add that this concept, I think we took it to the Board of Finance group, the Board of Facility group last at the work session earlier this month. We presented the entire program to the board. So it's not like this is the first time the board's seen it and we're going to spend 5 minutes to approve it. So could you roll down a couple screens, one more. So kind of what is it? It's a funding mechanism for non-eligible but LTFM improvements. I think if you, Sarah, can you scroll down? So what we're going to do is several different projects, about $6.5 million worth. And right now, when you look at our annual district-wide utility costs, the current is $1.3 million. We think post-project, when everything's done, the annual cost should be about $1,115,000. So the way it works is you take those savings and over time, you take the savings to pay off we'll probably do certificates of participation fund this. So, and then if you scroll down one more time, there's the scope of work, the energy program costs at the various facilities. So there's the $6.5 million, and then one more time, Sarah, going down. So we're asking the board to approve the program. It's a non-budget. It's the savings will pay for the upfront costs of the renovations or the changes. The program creates a general fund savings that can be directed back into the classroom. So the way it can really work is you take those savings and I'll work with Bill on this a little bit, but you can make the payment out of the capital fund. So it's all general fund, but it's the old Fund 5. Make the payment out of there, then all the savings are directed back into the old 01 kind of operating budget area. So I think there's one more.
No, that's it.
That it? Oh, okay. So the next step then would be we'll probably the next board meeting is have the board approve the sale of certificates. If we're
So,
okay with doing it.
Picking up from the last meeting, should anybody be watching this for the first time, why don't you say a few words about that magic word guarantee that was used by the presenters last time?
Yeah, if you want to go back a couple slides there, Sarah. One more. Yeah. So when you look at that, the box on the bottom on the left-hand side, so you look at your cumulative operations and maintenance savings, and let's just say that it's a savings of $230,000 a year. That's guaranteed by the company that responded to the RFP and is going to be in charge of this. So if we don't save that amount of money, they'll step in and make up that difference.
Or I think the option was to make changes.
Or to make changes so that we meet that goal.
And I think Joe asked a good question last time, if I recall correctly, and he said, have you ever had to pay out? And their answer was no, but they have on a couple occasions made a few adjustments.
They made them.
Which is fair.
They cover the cost of the changes, correct?
Yeah, yes, they would. So, the other thing in working with this company that was, through the RFP process, when you go back to the scope of the projects, because of the way you do this, you have them respond to the RFP. You wouldn't be required to bid out various projects, but I have them do that. So you're getting the, it's just like a regular construction project where you are probably not bids that are coming back to the board, but we'll know yep, we got bids, and Bill will see those and say, yep, here's the person we want, here's the company we want to work with. So I've done this on a few other occasions, and I would say every time the savings has actually been more than what was
This business model's based on it, so you figure they're probably conservative.
That's right, that's right. And then again, the savings goes back to
Yeah.
it's real savings. And
So Jeff, we know you've had experience with UNESCO in the past. Bill, have you had any interactions with them?
Not with UNESCO. We discussed this concept in my previous district. It was right in line with when an operating levy was passed. So the idea of adding some debt, albeit cost neutral, just wasn't the right time. So we've talked in concept. From what I understand, UNESCO is a great company. So
Okay.
that's been my point.
All right. Other questions? Do you feel like you've had time to ruminate on this enough?
Yeah, I think we've had opportunities, ample opportunities to ask questions of the vendor, both in committee and in front of the full board.
Okay. Any other feedback for this before we? All right. I will accept a motion because on the table, well, I'm looking for a motion. I'm assuming the motion would be to approve the, what do we call it then? Let's just call it the energy efficiency program.
Guaranteed.
Second.
Guaranteed. I like dropping it guaranteed. You can see it there. Christie and then Matt. Any other discussion?
It seems like a no-brainer to me. It really does.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. You can communicate with UNESCO
Okay.
when you move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Actually, their disapproval.
Yeah, it might be. My wife. Yes, thanks, Bill.
Thanks for
Welcome
being
again.
here.
Welcome.
All right, let's move on to item 10, which is other. We do have something in it. We're going to approve a couple of meetings. We actually usually approve a whole slate of meetings, but in light of some of the changes that are going to be pending, we're going to act, or the recommendation is to actually approve 3 specific meetings you can see listed in front of you. But for anyone who's not able to see that, January 6th at 6 p.m., the annual reorg meeting. January 11th would be the board retreat, and January 27th would be the first, I guess, regular business meeting. So again, it's just to get those on calendars, really for the benefit of the board and the public for that matter, but really for the board.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, typically it's been okay, your calendar expires, then you don't approve the next slate until
Right.
January. This lets us know what we're doing in January.
It's probably a good hack. I like it too.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any additional discussion? I will simply say I'm going to abstain from this vote. I feel like that's probably appropriate.
Can we rescind accepting your resignation?
That's what the text was from my wife. No? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, so you've got at least those first 3 meetings. So we're wrapping up here. Well, actually, before we move other, this is where we normally do our round robin. It seems a little odd to do that. I'm gonna do recognition first, and then I'll do committee reports. So do we have anybody who would care to speak to the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports now. I'll kind of do the round robin. Can't remember if I went left or right last time, but I'm gonna go left. So Angela, I'll leave you for last. Don't open your mouth.
I attended the Southwest Metro board meeting this month, and we are going through policies as well, so it's common. And we also talked a little bit about some possibility of having bigger space within this building here.
Right.
Taking over what used to be Joann's or the grocery store, whatever you want to call it, and having kind of a wing just for education on that side, and then us over here, and then they would block off the other portions within the mall to be for the public. So it's still tentative, but it's something that they're thinking about.
Do they have a timeline for something like that?
They do.
To decide, I mean?
They do not have a timeline as of right now, unless you know of one.
No, I do not know. Christie?
Had a school board communications committee meeting last Wednesday, I believe it was. We refined the survey that we actually presented at our last board meeting, made some refinements to that. I think we've got a good working document now to move forward with. That should be it. Yep.
Okay. Smooth finish,
Great. Well, we had a personnel committee meeting tonight just to keep tabs of where we're at with all our negotiations. Keith gave us a great update. Other than that, nothing else.
Ash?
We've already mentioned it, but definitely worth repeating. Attendance area listing and input session tomorrow at East in the Media Center for those watching at home. And then next Thursday at West in the Media Center. Both start at 6 p.m.
Great. Sarah?
No.
Councilwoman Contreras? All right. Nancy?
One of the things I just wanted to mention is I just do want to congratulate Erin Howman. One of the things we started about 5 or 6 years ago was trying to provide more support to our kids who apply for the PSAT in 2 ways. Really getting kids to take it at a younger age so that they're making multiple attempts before it counts in their junior year. And then the second part is providing more support for the kids that are actually in the competition. So right now, Erin's doing a lot of help in the last few months with those kids in terms of their surveys and I should say their essays, that kind of thing. And I think this is the largest group we've ever had in terms of semifinalists and commended. And I like to think it was because of some of the effort that came through that program to support kids. And just, you know, even semifinalists are huge winners when it comes to scholarships and entry into more elite schools. And when you actually make finalists, it's amazing kind of what opens up in terms of opportunities for kids. So wanted to mention that. And then the second thing would be just, we'll be coming pretty shortly with course proposals here in November and December, our typical kind of season for getting registration ready for next year. It always seems to be so early. So all of that's coming at the end of November, and then we'll be presenting that in December. And then lastly, just because we talked about the academy model, I noticed recently, because Elizabeth Deere and I, the academy coach, she does a lot of hosting of other school districts. We've had a lot of interest in the upper Midwest, but we actually have a phone call tomorrow with the community superintendent of the military schools in Germany. And so they are considering coming to see our school in December. And so we have a phone conference with them. They came across us through sort of the network and a variety of things because they're building as part of renewing their U.S. military schools in Germany. So that's our first international.
Wow.
That's fun.
Have they looked at what Minnesota's like at the center, I wonder?
Yeah.
I would have picked a different one.
It's probably not that much different, but yeah.
Well, find out.
So that would be fun to see if they come to visit, so.
Great, thanks, Nancy. Keith? Bob?
Last Wednesday through Friday, I was at our State Association Fall Conference up in Brooklyn Park at the area Northwest, and it was great keynoters, great workshops. We've really engaged with friends that have been in the field for many years and have discussions with them and best practice and whatnot. It was just a good 3 days, and come back Monday to today and hit the road, get it going.
Welcome back. Dave?
Nothing else.
Paul?
Don't have anything this time around.
Joe?
We had the finance committee meeting prior to the board meeting tonight. Nothing that Jeff didn't go over, but 2018-19 looks like a really good year. Can't wait for the audit. I'm the one who probably can't wait.
Christmas comes early for you, Joe.
We're so excited for you, Joe. So,
Judy?
Finance committee met last week after the
Facilities.
communications. Facilities, finance, I just happened here. Facilities. And wrapping things up at the high school construction. There are fewer and fewer items that need to be completed, and it looks like everything's progressing in that area much better than it had been last summer. So really good to hear that that's happening. The south side is moving along. Still planning for full use next fall. The community facilities, still lots of talk, lots of interest, starting to zero in on some important strands, I think, and I look forward to their final product coming up pretty soon.
Anybody else have facility?
All right, I have nothing. Mike?
I feel like I've spoken enough at this meeting. so-
All right.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes.
Just to plug that we're still accepting applications for a school board member, so wanted to get that out.
Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
And also, good luck to our football team on Friday night in the second round of the playoffs.
Very good. Absolutely. Very good. All right, so upcoming dates. Angela just preempted this one. The application window is open. We do have a few, let's see, next committee meeting. Well, first, I'll reiterate what Ashley said. We've got the attendance area meetings tomorrow and then the following Thursday. We have a policy committee meeting on November 4th, it looks like, and then we resume with other meetings going forward. So with that, I will look for or accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I'll give it to Christie, second to Paul. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned.
Good, I never have discussion on that.